For most of the people that are dealing with or that have dealt with narcissists in the past, they were so hungry in their hearts for love and consideration and care and kindness and empathy that they were willing to believe anything anybody told them, to just, even if just for a second, it would make you feel a little bit better because your hearts were starved of these things. Without properly speaking, without love, we really cannot thrive in the way that we really need to. Now, of course, love is just a a hormone, and oxytocin is the love hormone itself, but what is that more connected to? It's more connected to the social bonding, it's more connected to affection, it's more connected to feeling like you can be physically safe with someone as well. There's a lot that goes into oxytocin, but ultimately, emotional connections are going to be way stronger than anything physical. And this is what a lot of narcissists don't understand and can't really understand. But your heart was hungry, so you ate a bunch of falsehoods. And that's something that when you are down in the dumps, that's you can be very desperate sometimes. And this comes from a lack of self love, and it comes from a lack of self appreciation, it comes from a lack of self respect. But how do you get these things? How do you get self love? How do you get self respect? How do you get self affection and self understanding? Like, it's easy to say, like, oh, you just need self love, or oh, you just need self respect. Oh, have some standards. Well, it's one thing to say that, but it's another on how to act that out. So, in this video today, we're going to talk about why narcissists will go to extreme lows to make sure that you stay stuck in a dead space. And the reason that they don't want to see you thriving and moving forward is because, well, you're actually happy and you're actually just doing your thing now. Or you might be just trying to. You're just trying to move on with your life. And they just want to continue to hover, continue to check in. And you don't really want any part of this. You don't want any part of the betrayal anymore. And it's not always a betrayal of like cheating or anything like that. I personally, me personally, I've never been cheated on. And thank God for that. But I've had women that wanted to cheat on their boyfriends or their husbands with me. And when I found out that they had a boyfriend or a husband, I called it off. And that was that. But that's still, you're going to be. Like, I was thinking about this at the time when this happened. I was like, why am I attracting these kinds of people? What exactly is emotionally unavailable inside myself to where I'm attracting someone that's emotionally unavailable? Like, they're emotionally unavailable to me, that is, right? Because they're already in a relationship of some kind. It's like, well, like, I had to ask myself, well, what the hell is wrong with me? What am I lacking? What am I doing wrong? And sometimes that's not always going to be the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, what is your behavior like that got you into the situation anyway? And you have to ask yourself proper questions. And you also have to ask from the other side, because everybody ultimately is going to operate based off of what they're going to get out of situations. If you feel like you have to give more than you have to take in a relationship for too long, you're not going to want to be in it. It's going to be miserable for you because you're not getting anything back. Again, your heart is starved. While the other person, well, they're just fine. And then they're going off and sharing that love and communicating that love with everybody else. They're just living their life dandily. And you're left sitting there like, what just happened? Like, what was that? It's like they only want to talk to you just so that they can talk to somebody else. It's like they get that energized feeling with you and then they just go off and go somewhere else. And it's like, what? What is that all about? Well, so again, you have to ask yourself the right questions here and what's actually going on. In 2 Timothy 2:23, it basically says to avoid asking or even just avoid foolish questions altogether. Well, how do you know if something is a foolish question? Well, especially if you've been involved with a narcissist, your brain's going to be everywhere. And people that haven't been involved with narcissists, I genuinely believe that they cannot comprehend the kind of madness that a narcissist can inflict upon your life, because the narcissist hurts you for their entertainment. The narcissist wants to and longs to be entertained by seeing your pain. And they'll put on, if it's a woman specifically, they'll put on this facade of innocence. And they'll be great at mirroring everything about you. And that's what's crazy about being in these narcissistic relationships, is like sometimes you'll feel like you found your quote unquote soulmate or your twin flame or whatever. And I was involved with twin flames and I thought twin flames could be a thing. And, you know, it was ultimately a fantasy. And I thought about for a while, like, well, what about me and my experiences up until that point wanted to believe in that? Why did I want to believe in the prospect of twin flames? For those that are unfamiliar, I have done a video on twin flames like a year ago or so, where I break this down a little bit more intensely. But essentially, the twin flame phenomenon is you have met the other half of your soul, quote unquote, in another person, and this person is your ultimate mirror. But ultimately, what this led me to do is participate in completely toxic behaviors. And if you look up twin flames experiences and whatever, and you read through Quora or you read through Medium, and you see a lot of these different kinds of experiences that people have had with twin flames, quote unquote, you'll see that they just completely, and I mean completely, put up with toxic behavior and call it love. I mean, this is a woman. I remember seeing a woman, this was years ago, but I remember seeing a woman talk about this twin flame thing. And she said that her twin flame had cheated on her and cheated on her again. And she just kept coming back to him because he was just running away from her and her love. And it was just like, when I read that, I just thought to myself, this poor woman. Like, this poor woman. Because ultimately, what are women attracted to? Why are women attracted to these kinds of men? Why are women attracted to narcissists? Because ultimately, in today's day and age, you almost, as a man, you almost have to act as a narcissist in the Western society in order to be even looked at by a woman now. Because it's like, they can't handle healthy relationships. And you're not even going to want to attract those kinds of women anyway as a man, but that's just where it's getting to. You have to have this like Hulk-like level of of understanding female nature to where you can just smash through it if you need to. And I don't necessarily like using that euphemism, but it is what it is. So ultimately, these people are going to mirror you. They're going to mirror everything about you. And women are attracted to these narcissistic men because if you go back to the story of Adam and Eve, what did Adam do? What did Adam do with Eve? Well, Eve was beguiled by the serpent. So women, based upon this mythological story that's been told for thousands and thousands of years, but only written down after the last like few thousand years, since like 1000 BCE. But the story is older than that for sure. Well, so if women have a natural likeness and drawness to the darkness, like what exactly does that say about them? And I'm speaking purely factual here, and I'm speaking not from a place of trying to degrade anybody. I'm just asking, what does that say about women, or a woman rather, in general, compared to man? Well, woman is going to be naturally inclined to the darkness because the woman was made by God to be a helpmate. The woman was made, let's just say this, woman was made by God to be a light for man. So darkness is going to be something that's naturally drawn to women because initially, because women are born with value and their value comes from their purity, they're going to be attracted to these this darkness. And so you'll find a lot of times, even think about Greece. Like, I don't know why I'm just thinking about this as an example right now, but Greece, the female character is this super feminine woman, and she seems very classy in the beginning, and she's very sweet and she's very kind. And who's she drawn to? The quote unquote bad boy, right? And they are like the complete opposites when it comes to how they live their life. But for some reason, there's this like connection there. And so anyway, the bad boy ends up breaking her heart, and then like she breaks his heart or whatever. I can't remember the exact story in Greece, but all I remember though for sure is that there's the bad boy persona, the ultimate quote unquote bad boy persona, and that's where Eve is drawn to. Well, now let's look at mankind. Let's look at man. What did man do in the story of Adam and Eve? So what did Adam do? Adam dropped his guard for a fucking second. And the knowledge of good and evil was bestowed upon him. And then God cursed him. He dropped his guard for 1 second. You cannot drop your guard, men, for these women out here. And I'm not saying this because, like, I'm not saying that you can't, like, express emotion or anything like that. I think that's fine in a healthy manner, and I think you ought to. Like, how else are you going to connect emotionally, especially when emotions are what women are driven by? Men cannot create a connection with a woman logically. They have to create a connection with the emotions. And likewise, women with men. Men are more logically connected. Haven't you ever seen how men can connect based off of like what sports team they like or something like that? Like, oh, you like this team? I like this team. Oh, cool. Like, that's it. Like, oh, you have the same shoes? I have the same shoes. Oh, sweet, bro. Like, they're super relaxed and chill about it. But oftentimes you see a woman and like another woman likes something that she likes, and sometimes you can see the clash go together. And that's because I genuinely believe that women are natural enemies of women and men are naturally indifferent to one another. And that's something that I learned from Arthur Schopenhauer, who is considered to be a pessimist as far as a philosophical understanding is concerned, but I don't think he's a pessimist quite as much as people think that he is. I think he's more a realist than anything else. But anyway, that's kind of beside the point. So now all of that backstory is led up to, okay, so how do these people want to keep you stuck? Well, they want to keep you stuck because they are willing to do things and mirror you in ways to make it seem like they're the most perfect thing for you. And they can make it seem like they're being vulnerable. Like this is so evil. Like it's so evil. They can make it seem like they're being vulnerable to you when in reality they're playing the victim card. That's what it is. And men and women that are narcissists do this. It's very, very evil stuff, guys. It's very evil. And they will use your virtues against you. They can anyway. And this is one of the reasons why it's just best to stay clear. Like stay clear from these people. It's no good for you to be around them. It's no good because you're going to eventually build up some kind of form of resentment of some kind, and rightfully so. You were used. You were literally abused emotionally. Of course it's okay to be upset about that. But what's not necessarily okay is to want to retaliate because of that. They're not going to care. They really just don't. And it would be unwise of you to think that trying to get back at them would do anything or accomplish anything, because that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to go to the lows that they go to. They want you to go to the lows that they know that they want to drag you down. Have you remember in The Dark Knight where Harvey Dent actually dies and he's killed by Batman at the end, and at that point Batman says that the Joker chose Harvey Dent because he was the best of us. The Joker wanted to prove that even the Gotham's White Knight could be corrupted. Even the most honorable of men could be corrupted. And the Joker, unfortunately, in some sense, is right about that. It takes tremendous emotional strength. It takes tremendous courage. It takes tremendous boldness. And it takes it takes grace from Jesus Christ himself to be able to move in a way that is profoundly in your own lane when you're around these people. Because you're almost not allowed to have emotions of your own with these kinds of people. You're not allowed to. And if you do, then they're going to try to peer pressure you they're going to try to peer pressure you out of your convictions. If you know this person is not right for you and you've let them know, hey, this is not working out, we're not compatible, whatever the case may be, and they're still persisting, well, you have to look at the fruits of their actions, number one. But number two, you have to really, really accept that almost 100% of the time, these people are not going to change. Especially if they're actually narcissists, they're not going to change. A cheater, there's the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater. I haven't seen a case where that's not true, to be honest. I have not seen a case where I've seen liars, I've seen cheaters, I've seen thieves of identity, that is, not necessarily of material goods, but thieves of identity, and they don't change. They don't. And it's hard to watch sometimes because you're just you're growing, you're maturing, and you know that if you stick around with these people, you're going to stay in that dead end lane where there's going to be a dead end at the end of the road. And how the hell are you supposed to get anywhere with the dead end at the end of the road. You're not. You're just not. So it can be very hurtful for you to move on and let go of these people, but because you can develop some kind of bond with them, whether it's a trauma bond, whether it's an emotional bond, whether it's a sexual bond or a soul tie of some kind. And you just have to pray and start acting in ways that distance yourself from this person physically and emotionally and spiritually. Because if you have to be around this person day to day, like if they're at work or something, just don't talk to them. You don't need to acknowledge them. Like, and even if you have to acknowledge them, you don't need to say anything. You can be like, you don't even need to be kind to these people. You can just look at them if you need to, give a nod, and move on if you have to. But ultimately, you just don't want to pay attention to these people because that's what they want. They don't care whether it's good attention or bad attention. They just want your attention. And it's conniving. It really is. It's really something insidious to behold. But ultimately, I hope this message was useful and insightful, and peace be with you. Till next time.